your eyes for a moment. Right now, in this very second, your body is eavesdropping on your thoughts. Most people wake up and immediately reach for their phone, checking their texts and their emails, and in doing so, they plug into their past. They are reforming a personality that is tied to a known reality, a known set of problems, and a known suit of emotions. If you want to change your life, you have to understand that your personality creates your personal reality. Personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. To change your destiny, you must literally become someone else. The cycle of thinking and feeling is the invisible cage that keeps most of humanity repeating the same day over and over again while wondering why their life hasn't changed. To truly grasp how to master your emotions and change your destiny, you have to understand the biological chemistry of your own existence. Every single day, from the moment you wake up, your brain is firing and wiring in specific sequences. These sequences are based on your memories of the past. As you think about your problems, thoughts produce a chemical signal that travels from the brain to the body, and the body begins to feel exactly the way you were thinking. If you think a thought of lack or resentment, your brain signals the adrenal glands to produce the chemistry of stress. Within seconds, you feel the emotion of lack or resentment. Now, here's the trap. The moment you feel that emotion, it becomes a filter for your next thought. Because you feel unhappy, you start thinking more unhappy thoughts to justify that feeling. Creates a continuous loop where your thinking creates feeling and your feeling creates thinking. This loop eventually consolidates into a state of being. Your body becomes the record of the past because it is literally living in the chemical consequences of yesterday's thoughts. When you do this for 10, 20, or 30 years, the body becomes more than just a vessel. It becomes the mind. It's why people find it so difficult to change. They say they want to be happy, but their body has been conditioned to be addicted to the chemistry of suffering. Become accustomed to the rush of cortisol and the spike of adrenaline that comes from being frustrated or judgmental. Even if their external environment is peaceful, their internal environment is craving the familiar hit of a negative emotion. It is the physiological reality of why the past is so hard to let go of. Your body is literally being signaled to stay in the known, even if that known is painful. To interrupt this cycle, you have to become conscious of your unconscious self. You have to step out of the program. Most people live 95% of their lives on autopilot, functioning as a set of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, and conditioned beliefs. They are like a computer running a legacy software program. If you want to change your destiny, you have to get into the operating system and change the code. This begins with the act of observation. You must become the witness of your thoughts rather than the person having the thoughts. When you sit in stillness and begin to notice the repetitive narrative of your mind, you are no longer the program, you are the consciousness observing the program. This is the first step toward emotional mastery. You are creating a gap between the stimulus and the response. When you start to observe that you are feeling an old emotion, your body will try to pull you back into the loop. It will tell you that it's too hard to change, that you'll start tomorrow. You have a right to be angry because of what someone did to you. That is the body trying to reclaim its position as the mind. It wants the familiar chemical state because to the body, the familiar is safe, even if it's toxic. The unknown, on the other hand, terrifying to the biological self. But the unknown is where all new possibilities exist. If you stay in the cycle of thinking and feeling based on your past, you can only create more of the past. Future will look exactly like your history because you are projecting the same chemical signature into the quantum field every single day. Changing your destiny requires you to break this chemical dependency. Learn to shorten the refractory period of your emotional reactions. If something bad happens and you stay angry for an hour, that's a mood. If you stay angry for a month, that's a temperament. If you stay angry for 10 years, that's a personality trait. Mastering your emotions means you no longer allow the external world to dictate how you feel on the internal. You begin to choose your emotional state regardless of the circumstances around you. You start to signal the body to a new emotion, gratitude, joy, empowerment before the actual event occurs. By doing this, you are teaching the body to live in a new future instead of a past memory. You are literally rewiring your brain and reconditioning your body to a new mind. This is the work of a master, to be so defined by a vision of the future that the thoughts and feelings of the past no longer have the power to pull you back into the old reality. You become the architect of your own chemistry. Breaking the habit of being yourself is perhaps the most profound psychological and biological challenge a human being can undertake because it requires you to step into the void of the unknown. People spent their entire lives building a personality that is actually a complex set of defense mechanisms, social conditionings, and memorized emotional responses. They have become so used to being themselves, the version of them that is cynical, version that is anxious, or the version that is always seeking approval, that they don't even realize this identity is just a habit. It is a biological garment they put on every morning. The moment you decide to change, moment you make a firm decision that you will no longer think, act, or feel in the same way, you have essentially declared war on your own biology. You have stepped out of the familiar, predictable world of the known and into the river of change. This is where the real work begins. When you decide to break a habit, whether it is a habit of thought or a habit of emotion, your body immediately notices the absence of the familiar chemical signals it has been receiving for years. You must understand that your body has become the mind. It has been the loyal servant to your past for so long that it now believes it is the one in charge. As soon as you stop providing it with the usual hits of stress, guilt, or insecurity, the body begins to send signals to the brain. It starts to protest. It uses a series of internal voices to lure you back into the old self. These voices say things like, "Too hard, I'll start tomorrow. This doesn't feel right," or "I'm not cut out for this." If you listen to those thoughts and believe them as truth, you will inevitably return to the same old behaviors and the same old emotions. Your life will remain exactly as it has always been. You will have fallen back into the habit of being yourself. The discomfort you feel in that moment of change is not a sign that something is wrong. It is actually a sign that you are finally doing something right. That discomfort is the sound of the old neurological pathways in your brain beginning to dismantle. It is the feeling of the body's chemical addiction being broken. People flee from this discomfort because we have been conditioned to believe that if something feels bad, it must be bad. But in the realm of personal transformation, that discomfort is the sweet spot. It is the bridge between the old self and the new self. To cross that bridge, you have to be willing to sit in the fire of that transition. You have to become so aware of your old thoughts that you don't let a single one slip by your awareness unnoticed. You have to become so conscious of your automatic behaviors, how you speak, how you slouch, how you complain, that you can stop them in their tracks before they take hold of your energy. The reason it's called a habit is that it has become subconscious. By the time we are 35 years old, we are 95% set of memorized programs. To break the habit of being yourself, you have to bring that 95% back into the light of the conscious 5%. You have to start observing the way you move through the world as if you were a stranger watching yourself. It requires an immense amount of energy and presence. This is why people would rather stay in their misery than change, because staying the same is easy. Staying the same requires zero effort. Changing requires you to be greater than your body, greater than your environment, and greater than time. You have to exist in a state where your vision of who you are becoming is more real to you than the memory of who you used to be. You have to decide that you are no longer going to be the victim of your genes or the victim of your childhood or the victim of your ex-partner. Every time you catch yourself falling into an old emotional pattern and you consciously choose to stop and pivot, you are performing a revolutionary act. You are literally pruning away old synaptic connections and building new ones. You are teaching your body that it is no longer the master, that you are the master. This process is not a one-time event. It is a moment-by-moment practice. It is about waking up and asking yourself, what is the greatest ideal of myself that I can be today? And then throughout the day, as the world tries to pull you back into your old habitual reactions, you maintain that vision. You refuse to let the environment control your internal state. You understand that if you react to the same people and the same problems in the same way, you are only reinforcing the old self. If you can remain in a state of grace or neutrality or empowerment in the face of those old triggers, you have successfully broken the habit. You have moved from the old personality into a new personal reality. You are no longer defined by the past. You are being pulled by the future. The power of mental rehearsal is the bridge between the world of thought and the world of physical reality. Biological doorway that allows you to transform your destiny by changing the very structure of your brain before the external event has even occurred. To understand this, you must first accept a startling truth about your own neurology. Your brain does not know the difference between an actual experience you are having in your physical environment and an experience you are fabricating through the power of thought and emotion alone. When you sit in a state of deep stillness and begin to mentally rehearse an action, a behavior, or a way of being, you are engaging in a process of neuroplasticity that begins to install the neurological hardware to look like the experience has already happened. If you do this enough intensity and focus, your brain is no longer a record of the past. It becomes a map to the future. Most people use their imagination to rehearse their worst case scenarios, essentially practicing their fears and anxieties until those states become hardwired into their nervous system. But you have the capacity to use this same machinery to create a new destiny. Think about the implications of this. You can sit down and close your eyes and begin to rehearse who you're going to be when you walk out into your life, how you will speak, how you will handle stress, how you will radiate confidence. You do this with such clarity that you can actually feel the emotions of that future self. You are beginning to signal your genes in new ways. You are changing your brain from a repository of everything you have already known into a blueprint for everything you are about to become. This is not just positive thinking or wishful daydreaming. This is a highly technical biological process. Focus intensely on an ideal. The frontal lobe of your brain acts like a symphony conductor, silencing the rest of the brain so that the only thing that exists is the thought. In that state of high-level focus, the brain begins to fire in new sequences and patterns. And whenever you make the brain fire in new ways, you are changing your mind. You are literally pruning away the old connections that kept you bound to your old identity and forging new ones that represent your new self. But for mental rehearsal to truly take hold and change your destiny, it cannot just be an intellectual exercise. Be a visceral, emotional experience. You have to combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion. If you are mentally rehearsing a life of abundance while still feeling the emotion of lack, your body is receiving a mixed message. Your mind is in the future, but your body is still stuck in the chemical past. To master your emotions, you must teach your body what that future feels like before it manifests. You must feel the gratitude, the joy, empowerment of your new life so deeply that your body begins to believe it is already in that reality. When you reach that state where the thought becomes the experience, you have reached the point of transformation. You are no longer waiting for your success to feel successful or waiting for your healing to feel whole. You are feeling whole and successful in the present moment, and that internal state is what eventually draws the external experience to you. Practice requires you to overcome the distractions of your three-dimensional world. Your body will want to get up, your mind will want to check the time, and your senses will tell you that the room you are sitting in hasn't changed. But if you can persist, if you can stay in that state of rehearsal until the internal world becomes more real than the external world, you are performing a miracle of biology. You are moving from being a victim of your environment to being the creator of your life. You are training your nervous system to be ready for the opportunity before it arrives. Just like an athlete who rehearses the winning shot thousands of times in their mind so that when the moment comes, their body moves automatically, you are rehearsing your new life. You're making it so familiar to your brain and body that the new behavior becomes the new habit. This is how you bypass the years of struggle and the endless loops of the old self. You are no longer defined by your history, being pulled forward by a vision of a future that you have already lived 1,000 times within the sanctuary of your own mind. By the time you open your eyes and step back into your day, you are no longer the same person who sat down, carrying a new neurological signature, a new chemical state, and a new energy that the world must eventually respond to. This is the ultimate power of the mind, to create a reality so potent that the physical world has no choice but to reorganize itself to match your internal vision. Transcendence is the fundamental shift from living as a biological entity reacting to the environment to becoming a sovereign consciousness that dictates its own internal state. To understand this, look at the old model of reality that most of us were conditioned to believe, which is the model of cause and effect. In this outdated paradigm, we wait for something outside of us to change so that we can feel something different inside of us. Wait for the wealth to come so we can feel abundant. We wait for the new relationship so we can feel loved. Or we wait for the healing to occur so we can feel whole. This is a life lived in survival, where we are at the mercy of external conditions. Conditions don't change. We remain trapped in the same emotional landscape of lack and anticipation. But to master your destiny, you must flip this script entirely. You must move into the new model of reality, which is about causing an effect. Learn to feel the emotion of your future before the event has actually happened. This is a biological challenge because our bodies are used to responding to the senses. If our senses tell us we are sitting in a chair in a quiet room, our bank account tells us we are broke, the body naturally wants to feel the emotions associated with that reality. To transcend this, you have to go beyond your body, beyond your environment, and beyond time. You have to enter a state of being where you can generate an elevated emotion, such as gratitude, inspiration, or joy, solely through the power of your own focus. When you do this, you are performing a profound act of biological alchemy. Gratitude, specifically, ultimate state of receivership. When you feel grateful, it is because something wonderful has already happened to you. Therefore, when you feel gratitude in the present moment, you are signaling to your body and your nervous system that the event you are dreaming of has already occurred. You are no longer wanting or needing, because wanting implies that you don't have it. Instead, you are in a state of having. When you live in survival emotions like anger, fear, or jealousy, you are living in a state of emergency. These emotions are designed for short-term stressors, running away from a predator or fighting for resources. In these states, your energy is directed outward to meet the perceived threat, leaving very little energy for the internal work of repair, growth, and creation. If you stay in this state for too long, your body begins to break down. This is why mastering your emotions is not just a spiritual or psychological pursuit, it is a vital necessity for your health and longevity. Sending these survival emotions means you have to stop giving your power away to the people and circumstances that trigger them. Every time you react to someone who is being difficult, you are giving them your vital energy. You are allowing them to control your chemistry. But when you can look at that same person or situation and choose to remain in a state of elevated emotion, you have transcended your environment. You have become greater than the conditions of your life. Process of emotional trance requires you to cultivate a level of awareness that is sharper than your old habits. You have to catch yourself in the act of being the old self. You have to notice the moment the chest tightens or the jaw clenches and realize that you are about to fall back into the chemical past. In that moment, you have a choice. You can follow the old familiar path of least resistance, or you can take the path of the master and consciously shift your internal state. This is where the work becomes real. It's easy to feel good when everything is going your way. The true change in destiny happens when you can feel empowered while you are still facing a challenge, or when you can feel wealthy while you are still building your empire. When you can maintain that elevated emotional frequency regardless of what is happening in the three-dimensional world, you are no longer a victim. You have become the creator. The quantum field does not respond to what we want. It responds to who we are being. Your being is the combination of how you think, and how you feel. If you are thinking about a new life, but feeling the same old emotions of unworthiness or doubt, you are sending a split signal into the field. Field cannot bring you a new reality if your emotional signature is still tied to the old one. You must become a match to the future you desire. This means you have to practice these elevated emotions until they become your default state. Have to make gratitude, love, and awe as familiar to you as frustration and worry used to be. As you anchor yourself in these higher frequencies, you are literally changing your genetic expression. You are signaling new genes in new ways. Your body begins to change to match the mind. You are no longer a record of the past. You are a living embodiment of the future. This is the essence of emotional transcendence. The ability to command your internal world so completely that the external world has no choice but to follow suit. Become the magnet that draws your destiny toward you, rather than the person constantly chasing after a ghost that never arrives. Brain adherence is the secret physiological portal that allows you to move from a state of mere survival into a state of true creation. And understanding this mechanism is essential for anyone who wishes to master their emotions and change their destiny. People live their lives in a state of high, beta brainwave activity, which is the signature of a brain that is constantly scanning the environment for threats, analyzing problems, and obsessing over the past and future. In this state, the brain is highly incoherent, firing like a lightning storm without a center, and this incoherence creates a corresponding state of chaos in the heart. The heart and the brain are in a constant bidirectional dialogue, always talking to one another through the nervous system. When you are stressed, frustrated, or impatient, your heart rhythm becomes jagged and irregular, sending a signal to the brain that the environment is unsafe, triggers the survival centers of the brain, which then reinforces the feelings of stress. And you become trapped in a loop of biological disorder that drains your energy and clouds your vision. To change your destiny, you must learn to bring these two powerful centers into a state of rhythmic harmony. This is called coherence. When you consciously shift your attention away from the outer world and its endless demands and focus, instead on the area of your heart, you begin to change your internal architecture by breathing deeply and slowly. And by intentionally summoning elevated emotions like appreciation, care, or compassion, you begin to smooth out the heart's rhythm. The heart starts to beat with a mathematical precision, like a steady drum, and it sends a powerful, coherent signal up through the vagus nerve into the brain. Signal tells the brain that the emergency is over and that it is safe to move into the higher centers of operation, the frontal lobe, where creativity, intuition, and logic reside. In this state of coherence, you are no longer a fragmented individual reacting to the world. You are a unified being capable of projecting a clear intention into the field of possibility. The heart is the strongest generator of electromagnetic energy in the body, producing a field that extends several feet beyond the physical skin. When you are in a state of heart-brain coherence, this field becomes organized and powerful. It's as if you are tuning a radio to a specific frequency. Your internal state is one of incoherence and stress. Your signal is weak and scattered, and you will continue to attract experiences that match that chaotic frequency. But when your heart and brain are working in tandem, you create a focused magnetic signature. It is why you cannot simply think your way to a new life. You have to feel your way there. The brain provides the thought, which serves as the electrical charge, but the heart provides the feeling, which serves as the magnetic charge. Together, create an electromagnetic signature that influences your reality. If you want to draw a new destiny to you, your signal must be clear, consistent, and highly organized. This process requires a departure from the sensory-based reality we are so accustomed to. Our senses tell us that we are separate from everything else, but the state of coherence allows us to feel our connection to a greater field of information. When you are in heart-centered coherence, you begin to move out of the me and into the we. You move out of the ego-driven survival mode, which is always focused on what can I get? And you move into a creative mode, which is focused on who can I become? This shift in focus is what allows the miraculous to enter your life. In survival, you are trying to force and control outcomes, which only creates more resistance. In coherence, you are in a state of flow where you trust the intelligence of the heart to guide you toward the path of least resistance. You are no longer trying to predict how your future will happen. You are simply becoming the person who is worthy of that future. Practicing this daily is like training a muscle. At first, your mind will wander, and your body will try to return to its familiar state of agitation. You might find it difficult to feel gratitude when your life seems to be falling apart. This is exactly when the practice is most important. Every time you bring your attention back to your heart, every time you choose to breathe through a moment of frustration and find a sliver of appreciation, you are retraining your autonomic nervous system. You are teaching your body that it can be calm and centered even when the world is in chaos. Over time, the state of coherence becomes your new baseline. You start to walk through the world with a different energy. Respond to different because your presence is no longer a threat. It is a source of order and peace. You become a walking, breathing example of what is possible when a human being masters their internal state. How you begin to command the forces of your own life. You are no longer waiting for a reason to be happy. You are being happy as a way of life. And that happiness becomes the very foundation upon which your new destiny is built. You are literally vibrating at the frequency of your dreams. And because the universe is a mirror of your internal state, your dreams have no choice but to find their way to you. To master your destiny, reach a point where you are no longer a puppet of your environment, but rather the master of your internal world. Most people are seamless reflections of their external circumstances. If their environment is good, they feel good. If their environment is bad, they feel bad. This is a state of being where you are essentially a victim of the world around you, allowing every person, every headline, every traffic jam, and every financial fluctuation to determine how you think and how you feel. When you allow the outer world to control your inner world, you're being defined by the senses. And as long as you're being defined by your senses, you are trapped in a three-dimensional reality that is a direct byproduct of your past. To change your life, become greater than your environment, you must develop an internal state of being that is so stable, so coherent, and so intentional that it remains unshaken regardless of what is happening in the physical world. Mastery begins with the realization that your environment is nothing more than a series of triggers designed to keep you in the old self. Every person you meet and every place you go has an emotional charge associated with it because you have experienced them before. When you see a certain coworker who bothers you, or you walk into a kitchen where you've had many arguments, your brain immediately fires the old circuits associated with those memories. Your body then releases the corresponding chemicals, and before you have even said a word, you are back in the personality of the past. You are reacting to the environment rather than creating from the future. Overcoming the environment means that you have to be more present than the stimulus. It means that when you face that coworker or enter that room, you've already decided who you are going to be. You have already rehearsed your response so thoroughly that the external trigger no longer has a hook in your biology. The true test of transformation is not how you feel when you are sitting in meditation with your eyes closed, away from the world. The true test is how you behave when you open your eyes and step into the theater of your life. Can you maintain your state of gratitude when you receive an unexpected bill? Can you stay in a state of love when someone treats you with unkindness? If you can, then you are no longer a victim, you are a master. You are demonstrating that your internal world is more real than the external world. This is the moment where the environment begins to lose its power over you. When you stop reacting to the old triggers, old neurological pathways that kept those triggers alive begin to prune away. You are essentially starving the old self of the energy it needs to survive. This is how you break the chains of your history and start to move into a new destiny. Living in a state where you are greater than your environment requires a radical level of self-awareness. It means you have to be the observer of your life while you are living it. You have to watch yourself from a distance and notice when your energy begins to drop or when your mind begins to wander into old grievances. The moment you catch yourself reacting to the environment, you must have the discipline to pause, to breathe, to realign with the future you are creating. You have to tell yourself that no person, no thing, and no experience is worth losing your internal sense of peace or power. Most people give their power away hundreds of times a day to things that don't even matter. The master understands that their energy is their most precious resource. They refuse to let the environment dictate their frequency because they know that their frequency is what creates their future. When you become greater than your environment, you start to see that the world is actually a mirror. As long as you were reacting to it, the mirror stayed the same. But when you change your internal state and hold it steady despite the environment, the mirror has no choice but to change. Is the quantum law of reality. You don't get what you want, you get who you are being. If you are being a person who is unshakable, empowered, and at peace, the environment will eventually reorganize itself to match that new identity. You will find that the people who used to bother you either leave your life or change their behavior toward you. You will find that new opportunities appear in places where there was previously a dead end. This happens because you are no longer signaling the same old genes with the same old environmental reactions. You are signaling a new future, and the world must respond to that new signal. You are no longer a small, fragile being trying to survive the world. You are a powerful, conscious creator who is commanding the world from the inside out. This is the ultimate freedom, to know that you are the one in control of your destiny, regardless of what the external world tries to tell you. The quantum signature of your future is the invisible energetic blueprint that you broadcast into the vast field of infinite possibilities every single moment of your existence. To understand how to finally change your destiny, must accept the premise that the universe is not made of inert matter, but of energy and information that is deeply responsive to the frequency of your being. Every thought you think sends an electrical charge into the quantum field. Every emotion you feel creates a magnetic charge. How you think and how you feel produces an electromagnetic signature that influences every atom in your life. Most people are broadcasting a signature that is a carbon copy of their past. Why they continue to attract the same relationships, the same financial struggles, and the same physical ailments. They are living in a state of redundant being. But the moment you align your thoughts with a new vision and your feelings with a new emotion, you change your signature and you begin to draw a new reality toward you. This is the science of the miraculous. When you enter the quantum field, you are entering a realm where all potentials exist simultaneously. There is a version of you that is already healthy, a version of you that is already abundant, and a version of you that is already fulfilled. These are not just fantasies, they are energetic frequencies that already exist in the field of all that is. The reason you haven't experienced them yet is that you haven't been a vibrational match to them. You cannot experience wealth if your emotional signature is vibrating at the frequency of lack. You cannot experience love if your signature is vibrating at the frequency of unworthiness. To experience a new destiny, you must consciously tune your internal dial to the frequency of that future. You have to occupy that state of being so completely that your body believes it is already there. When you do this, you are no longer chasing your future. You are commanding the future to manifest in your three-dimensional world. The challenge lies in the fact that we have been trained to believe only what we can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. We wait for the evidence to show up in our physical reality before we allow ourselves to feel the emotion. The quantum field works in the opposite way. You must feel the emotion first, and then the evidence appears. This is why faith is not a religious concept in this context. It is a biological and quantum necessity. The ability to hold a vision so clearly that your brain and body begin to change as if the event has already happened. When you maintain this new quantum signature, you are essentially laying down a new track in the fabric of space and time. You are creating a gravitational pull. Instead of you working so hard to make things happen, you become a vortex of energy that attracts people, opportunities, and coincidences that are in perfect alignment with your new frequency. To sustain this signature, be willing to let go your attachment to how the future will arrive. When you try to predict or control, you are back in the old self, trying to use the known to create the unknown. You have to step into a state of total surrender and trust. You have to be so in love with the feeling of your future that you no longer need the external world to validate you. Paradoxically, it is the moment you stop needing it that it finally appears, because you have moved from the state of wanting, which is a state of separation, to the state of oneness. In the quantum field, there is no distance between the observer and the observed. When you change the observer, which is you, the observed reality must change. This is a law of physics that is as consistent as gravity. As you practice this, you will notice that your life begins to be punctuated by synchronicities. These are the signs from the quantum field that you are on the right track. It might be a random phone call, an unexpected check in the mail, or a chance encounter with someone who has the exact information you need. These are not accidents. They are the feedback from the field responding to your new electromagnetic signature. They are the universe's way of saying that your internal state is successfully reorganizing your external reality. Your job is to stay in that state, to keep your heart open, keep your mind focused on the vision. You have to be more committed to your future than you are to your past. You have to be willing to lose your identity as the person who was stuck or unlucky, so that you can become the person who is a co-creator of their own life. By the time your destiny manifests, you will realize that the greatest gift wasn't the material goal or the physical healing itself. The greatest gift was the person you had to become in order to match that frequency. You will have mastered your emotions, silenced your doubts, transcended your limitations. You will have proven to yourself that you are not a victim of circumstance, but a master of energy. The new destiny is simply the natural byproduct of a new state of being. You are no longer living in the shadow of your memories. You are living the light of your imagination. Every day you wake up and intentionally broadcast your new quantum signature, you are essentially rewriting the script of your life. You moving from the predictable world of Newtonian physics into the infinite world of quantum possibility, where the only limit is the height of your own elevated emotions and the clarity of your own intent. So we arrive at the ultimate realization. Your life is not a series of random events, but a physical reflection of your internal state of being. If you want to change your destiny, you have to be willing to leave behind the person you have been for the person you are destined to become. It's not a journey for the faint of heart. It is a journey for the courageous, for those who are willing to face the discomfort of the unknown and the resistance of their own biology. True transformation happens in the quiet moments of the morning when you decide that your vision of the future is more important than your memory of the past. It happens in the heat of a challenging day when you choose to respond with grace instead of your usual frustration. Each time you make that choice, you are not just changing your mind, you are changing your biology, your chemistry, and your future. You are proven that you are no longer a victim of your environment, but the master of your soul. As you step back into the world, remember that the quantum field is always eavesdropping on your energy. It doesn't respond to your words, responds to who you are being. Walk with the posture of your future self. Breathe with the lungs of the person you have become. Feel the gratitude for a life that hasn't even materialized yet. Knowing with absolute certainty that it is already on its way, you have the power to collapse the wave of infinite possibilities into a single, beautiful reality. Your destiny is not something to be found, it is something to be commanded.